heavy,
bored.
I am sort of curious about your road to that while you were at, um, if I understand correctly, that this was going on while you were at the MFA.
Yeah. Um, my current agent, she reached out to me. I think it was my second year of my MFA, and I had this happen once before, and I think it was just because I have like a very kind of crappy rudimentary website with links to published work, and I don't know who told me that advice, but it was probably one of the best writing pieces of like writing business advice, like have a website like where people can go. So like I've always published in smaller magazines, and so it was like some small story, and my current agent had just read it and reached out to me. I had my email on my website, and she was like, "Hey, read this. Do you have a novel at all, maybe by chance?" And this had happened once before where an agent reached out to me and I asked me that question, and I said no. And so I sort of knew that this was coming. Like, okay, I don't know where I learned the lesson, and maybe I think it's probably more true now than ever, but like I knew that like a short story collection was probably not going to get you an agent or help you sell a book. You needed a novel, unfortunately. I mean, I love the novel too, but I was first a short story writer, so it was always sad to me that you couldn't sell a short story collection.
And most people are, right? Most people are in the MFA, at least. Like that's,
yes.
From what I understand, that's what they encourage you to write. At least in my program, I know they mostly discouraged long form.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's anyone's fault. It is definitely more difficult just functionally to talk about a novel in a workshop. It's too much, really. So I understand why it would be discouraged. But yeah, I feel like there were a couple of us in grad school who submitted novels or parts of novels and had to break it up, and it is hard to do that. And so I get it. But yeah.
Well, and it's got to be hard as the person who submitted it, right? If you keep having to break it up and you're having people look at it in these pieces. And I'm sure, you're sitting there during it in silence, having to take it and saying, yes, but what about these three things from my last submission that you've all clearly forgotten about?
Yeah, it's just kind of a pain to do in workshops, so I get it. But yeah, short stories were always the thing that you were taught. These like the sort of holy grail of writing. Like if you could write a good short story, you'll be revered forever and ever and
You'll
ever.
be Raymond Carver.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll all be Raymond Carver, even if we don't want to be. But so I happened to have like a novel that I was working on in grad school. I started it when I was living in New Orleans and was workshopping it. And I think I got to that point where you're like, shit, I don't know what to do with this anymore. Right. And so it was just fortuitous timing. I needed someone else to look at it. And so I emailed her the draft. And then she read it over a weekend and was like exuberant about it and wanted to talk and represent me. It was sort of a fairy tale, so it's definitely not the norm agent story. I definitely got lucky, but I worked with her for maybe 4 or 5 months on the manuscript, and she was really, aside from my grad school peers and professors, the most attentive person editorially. And that was a really interesting process working with her. And then we went to pitch the book in like right around like this weird time now in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is usually a dead time. And it was out like a very long time. And it was so fucking stressful. Just waiting and getting like a rejection or like, we like this, but nah.
Right.
And then it just sort of happened around like a couple days before, I think it was a week after I graduated from the MFA or something, because I graduated early. And then what they don't tell you is you have to get approved by like not only your editor, but like all of these other fucking people at the publisher have to be on board and they have to read it. And so that it was like a weekend. It was hell, just like waiting, like fuck. So yeah, then it just happened like right before Christmas and it was great. And that's the Spark Notes version of my agenting journey.
And that is
Inner
Resources, American resources.
being bored.
Some activities are intentional, right?
It shows such a lack of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I should say.
Bored. Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
see the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.